Trigger warning, I'll be talking about topics of a sensitive nature. Little girls that are often called fast and grown are often the victims of sexual abuse, sexual trauma, and or inappropriate sexual activity. But because of being called fast and grown, they don't usually have a safe space to talk about that or to ask for help. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. This commenter says, I was considered a fast little girl through being abandoned, over-sexualized, and molested by multiple people. I am sure that played a part in that. And the truth of the matter is it actually does, because it's really, when little black girls are called fast and grown, it's really a form of victim blaming and shaming, and it's really sort of telling them that, hey, you were the one who was inappropriate. You were the one who is inviting this negative attention. It's the equivalent of you being at your grandmother's house or your mother's house and them telling you, hey, we got grown men coming over, go upstairs and put on some more clothes. When, in all actuality, if you have grown predatory men coming over and a child is in the home, maybe they shouldn't be coming over, so that, maybe we shouldn't be associating with them. However, the onus is always put on to the victim to bear the burden, to be demonized, shamed, pathologized, punished, even banished, ostracized. So there's a lot that kind of goes into that in terms of black girls. And just me personally, and this is just my personal experience, I've done a number of sexual assault and sexual abuse assessments, interviews, and things like that over the years. Very few of them have been with black girls and black women. And it's not to say that there aren't victims, but one of my theories is, and it's just my theories, is that there's a lot more pressure for them to keep quiet. I've actually done more black men, white men, Hispanic, all of that. I've actually done, in terms of, I've actually done more men than I have with black women, white women, of course, Hispanic women, and all other sorts of victims as well. But I would say probably the least amount, which is rare because I've had a high number of black women clients over the years. So it's just always very interesting. And one of the things that tends to happen, in working with black clients is that there's still sexual trauma there. And a lot of it is, it's known through the family. However, a lot of that trauma is antagonized through the mother or through the father, where it's like, these girls are shamed incessantly to no end, by their mother. A lot of black women's trauma, and I'll do a separate post on this if you guys like, because I think it's worthy of a much more in-depth discussion. But a lot of black women's first sexual trauma is directly related or correlated with their mothers, and that their mothers just lose their shit on them when they find out that, hey, they've had any sort of sexual contact or any sort of person has been interested in them, whether it be kissing, whether it be hugging, whether it be going out on a date. And it's just like, it's almost like a war is unleashed onto them. And it's like, you need to go to school, you're a slut, you're this, you're that. And it's all of this sort of vitriol that a lot of them experience through their mothers, and their mothers will often publicly shame them. So they will call up members of the family. They will go over to the boys or girls' family, and they'll put an ad out in the newspaper, almost kind of like saying that my daughter did this, and there's like this public scrutiny, and they allow other people to come and join in that public scrutiny towards their daughter. That is what most of it, and usually, and I'm just speaking in general terms, and of course this isn't like everyone's sort of experience, but I found that by and large, a lot of Black women can share similar stories from when they start developing, or just when someone has expressed interest. And not only that, but when I've done CPS reports, is when there's some child-on-child sexual assault or any sort of sexual assault in the family, and I've talked about this before. A lot of mothers, their first instinct is to protect their son, their husband, or their boyfriend. And so they don't report, or there's pressure to protect them, that man who did that first and foremost, before they protect their daughters. I've had people want to basically start a war with me over reporting something like that, because that urge is to protect that man. And a lot of women, matriarchs, mothers, wish that they could take it back and never have even said anything, because they want to protect the abuser before they protect the victim. I cannot tell you how many times that scenario has played out, where there's nothing but straight vitriol, and like begging, pleading, like I don't want him to get in any trouble, so on and so forth. And I'll share a story with you about, and don't let that man be like attractive, or a ball player, or some sort of like public figure with like notoriety or popularity. Oh my gosh, sometimes Black girls are really banished by their whole community. In fact, I'll share a story. When I went to school, and I won't share what school it was, but there were, it was a lot of like inappropriate sexual stuff going on with students and teachers. And two girls that I went to school with, they accused a teacher of being inappropriate. And this was a very popular teacher, and it was, the whole, like enough people in the school turned on them and really sort of lashed out at them. Like they just sort of like disappeared and faded into the background. So I'm not sure actually whatever happened to them. They just, and I was actually like cool with both of them, but I'm not sure, like they just sort of faded away, and I never like heard from them again or anything like that. Not even through things like Facebook, which I'm not really proactive on that anymore. But there was just sort of this huge public outcry and this rush to protect this man. And this teacher, he ended up killing himself. And so then it just really just turned into this huge thing, and it was just like, look at what you've done, and and it was really unfair. But there was a lot of vitriol, for those young girls, and all they did was share their experience, tell the truth, and they received a lot of hate for it. And I'm sure, hopefully, they're in a much better space now. And not to put anybody out there, but just to kind of give you a sense of how there can be such a backlash towards girls and victims, and it can definitely derail a lot of things in their lives. And I hope that they're in a much better space. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, share, and follow. Thanks so much.